Hey guys, welcome to the Hype Attack Podcast, where we weigh in on the latest in nerd and pop culture hype.
We're the fandom. We are the excited conversations we have with our friends about the nerdy things we all love and geek about. We are the Hype Attack.
I am the hype!
Hold on, I'm gonna give you your cue. Ready?
I was trying to be funny.
Black
Don't.
alert. Black alert.
Money.
You don't know how long I've been sitting on that one.
Wow.
Winner. Chicken dinner.
Oh, fuck. All right.
You're all going to die down here.
Well, just punch my ticket to hell.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hype Attack Podcast. You're here with Jermaine, Doug, Isaac, and Rudy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
And on today's attack list, we got a new trailer for The Flash. And we're going to dive into the Snyderverse because The Flash is the trailer or movie, I should say, that's going to end the DCEU to drive us into the
sad.
DCU.
Yep.
But before we do get into this deep dive, did you guys nerd out this weekend?
Of course we did. Of course I did.
Yeah, I did.
I can't speak for Doug.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know what you did.
Yeah, I took my parents to the Renaissance Fair for the very first time. It was my mom's birthday last week, and
Happy birthday.
yeah,
Happy birthday, Mama Gentry.
yeah, Renaissance Fair. I don't know if you guys have ever been, but it's a good time. Everyone's dressed up, and it's super nerdy. It was very hot though.
I still need to do one of those. Like, it's on my bucket list.
This one's still going on until like mid-May.
Was it hot because everyone's wearing like the push-up? So, or even temperature, sorry.
yeah,
weather,
no, I mean
sorry.
both.
Weather,
Both,
sorry.
for
I'm
sure.
keeping it in my pants.
What did you guys do?
Not that. I saw Evil Dead Rise. That's a fun movie.
I'm gonna try to see that.
I heard
this
that got
week.
great reviews.
It did. I love the 2013. It holds a place in my heart. I love the original, but the 2013 holds a place in my heart as far as like gore and stuff like that. It were cut straight to the point, as did this one. But I didn't love it as much as the first one. But still liked it a lot. You should check it out. Everyone should check it out.
I'm sure
that
we're gonna
first
have,
one was pretty solid.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I'm sure we're gonna have a horror movie episode at one point, and that will absolutely be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because the 2013 remake was
Woo.
great.
I'm
Oh yeah,
sorry.
this isn't just the nerd podcast where pop culture, the umbrella of everything.
The things we nerd about can be anything.
As someone who doesn't really like horror movies, I'm sorry, did you describe it as fun?
Yeah.
So blood, gore.
When someone gets stabbed, killed, potato pillar to the ball sack, I go, yes!
That's fun.
Yeah, it's creative fun.
Okay.
I would represent for Isaac
fair.
right now. For me, horror movies are entertaining. It's not terrifying for me. Like the movie Cabin in the Woods, that was a fun movie to me.
That was super.
Cabin in the Woods was a good fun horror movie because of everything that was involved in that movie. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have. I didn't get it.
Oh, you didn't?
I mean, is
Just
Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock exchanging letters from the past to the future?
Yes.
That's
In that
Cabin in-
multiverse,
Cabin in the Woods?
yes.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Lake House. My bad. Both horror movies.
That multiverse movie. I love that multiverse movie.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves and
shit.
Sandra Bullock, they couldn't let the cabin go faster than 25 miles per hour.
What I nerded out in was a childhood thing that holds a dear place in my heart. I watched Power Rangers Once and Always.
Oh, I watched that.
How is that?
It was.
If
was
you like
fabulous.
the original Power Rangers, it's not going to be anything glorious. Like when you watch your old cartoons that you used to watch. Like, yeah, it's cheesy. I felt like I was in sixth grade again. Like, it was like I didn't expect anything of it. They had their little moments where they tugged on your heart a little bit because what happened to like Trini in real life.
Yeah.
And, so they kind of plugged in a moment in there, for her. And it was a little bit disappointing because you didn't have like the original cast in there, and R.I.P.
Jason David
God.
Frank.
I can't even.
Jason David Frank. Man, that one hit.
Yeah, but that
Yeah.
still hurts. But anyways, for what it was, I enjoyed it. It made me, laugh. Like I said, like I felt like I was in sixth grade all over again. Yes, it had some cheesy moments. Yes, I shake my head. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. Like, this is so ridiculous. But it was good for what it was. Like, it was Power Rangers, and it was like that first generation.
It was directly in the vein of that first series before it kind of got they kind of roided it up a little bit and heavy action
Before the grid got bigger with
but it was
other Rangers.
it was in that same vein, just as cheesy, but it was so well executed. Like I was there for it.
I probably last year I was like, ooh, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is on Netflix. Let me check it out. Let me revisit it. And I was like, wow. You said you were in the sixth grade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it started 93, 94?
It was definitely sixth grade because I remember staying after school and watching
Jermaine, Doug, and Rudy, how old were you in 93 and 94?
12, 11.
I was in sixth grade in 94.
I was 3 or 4.
Fucker.
A little baby.
I was a freshman in high school. I was from
little baby.
from 8th grade to 9th grade.
Nice. Isaac, have you ever used a typewriter? Legitimately, not ironically.
Yes. No, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's my thing. Is I always like to tell people it's like I turn in like school reports that I used a typewriter for, and now I'm just like
For 1 or 2 years, and then it was computer and floppy disks.
Oh, floppy disk.
Yeah.
I got your floppy disk.
I'll wait for it. And got your hard drive.
Is it 3.5, 3.5?
Millimeters.
Okay, yeah. So that Flash trailer, what did you guys think?
So this is the second trailer,
Yes.
and
Or third. Teaser, second, and then this trailer.
oh yeah, teaser,
if you want-
yeah.
if you count it that way.
It looks freaking cool. I'm so happy with the idea that like, yeah, it's titled The Flash, and it's a quote unquote solo movie, but it's like, yeah, no, this is a shared universe. There's other things in it, and in this case, it's like a shared multiverse or whatever. There's other heroes in it, and I feel like that's something that all of these hero movies, whether DC or Marvel, should have been doing the whole time. Where it's like, yeah, shared universe, like. Of course, the Flash is going to go to Bruce for advice, and I think that they hinted at that, right? Like him going to
because in
Ben Affleck, Bruce Wayne for advice.
in the Flashpoint Paradox comic, it's him and Batman. It's his dad as Batman, and that one. Although I really wanted to see who's the chick that played Maggie as the female Joker. That would have been really cool, and to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan
Maggie from The Walking Dead and
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dean
That
Morgan
original
from The
pitch,
Walking
yeah.
Dead.
Oh man, I would have loved to see.
Oh,
like,
no, we all wanted that when we
Yeah.
saw them
as
in the
his-
beginning
yeah.
of BBS.
BBS.
That I was like, oh my God, we could actually get this.
God. And that's a great casting for that because we saw Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the comedian in The Watchmen, and I was like, dude, that guy can fucking act. Also,
Perfect.
Daddy Winchester for those who are Supernatural fans, which I am. All about Dean Jensen Ackles.
He was in Super. What? No, I'm kidding.
No way.
By the way, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's coming back with Jensen Ackles in The Boys. But back to you.
Yeah.
Well, they pitched this Flash movie as like Flashpoint, which we had
Right.
obviously the comic book, which actually I don't know if I ever read that. I certainly was following along in the synopsis and everything online. But then we also had the DC animated movie, which I think was one of the first times I watched it. I was like, oh, this is a little hardcore.
Yeah, and it was very much. I haven't read the Flashpoint Paradox comic, but it was very much. What's Daddy Wayne?
Thomas
Wayne.
Wayne.
Yeah, it was, and it's him having Thomas Wayne, and then with the CW Flash, them doing their Flashpoint Paradox, and sort of revitalizing the storyline their way.
There's a moment. This isn't like a spoiler or anything, but do you guys think we're gonna get that letter moment from this? Like, because it's one of those like.
No,
Not without Thomas Wayne.
no,
right?
yeah, exactly. That was the
Unless
whole thing.
unless they're fucking throwing Thomas Wayne in this.
Yeah, that's the
Do
thing.
you
Like,
think that's
we
like
don't know.
maybe like a hidden thing that
Okay.
they don't want to spoil? So
Go finish your point because I have
Somewhere in
a
the
thing about the
pocket.
trailer.
Oh no. It's just a conversation piece, but because I'm gonna tell you guys like this. when that happened, I was reading my book like, oh boy, in the Never Ending Story, like how he's gasping and he's like, oh my God. And he throws his book. Like, when that happened, my eyeballs, I was like, I like closed the comic and I had to look away. I was like,
My eyes are leaking.
can't.
I had the sweatiest eyeballs. And I still do when I see that panel come up online or something and be like, where he's reading it and a little fucking tear hits the page. I'm like, mother.
I have to ask you guys.
A letter from his daddy.
Rudy vowed never to have sweaty eyeballs again, which is why he's wearing a very cool headband right now.
I'm fat.
I said
And he
nothing right now.
Makes me sweat. So the headband is on.
The headband.
I'm
he
trying to
has-
preserve my headphones.
For the
Kiss my
gamers out
ass.
there, he has his headband, Solid Snake style. He has infinity ammo right
Infinite
now.
ammo, baby.
I have to ask you
Okay,
guys the
yeah.
comic books though. Do you guys generally read comic books at home or you're out in public when you have those like responses? Because I used to read my comic books at Starbucks and I would get to those moments like the letter. Or for me, not as sad but shocking was I believe it was Identity Crisis when Max Lord snapped the neck of the second Blue Beetle, Ted Cord. And I remember sitting in the corner in my Starbucks, and I was like a regular at this place. And I'm like, and the way they designed the comic, which is something interesting with comic books, you know, you think you couldn't get that kind of shock horror, or that shock
shock
moment in
value.
a comic book, but they frame it where it's like, oh, you turn the page, and it's like, oh, you turn the page, and Ted Cord got shot in the head. Sorry. It was the same issue that it was the same series where Wonder Woman snapped Max Lord's neck. That's why I got confused. But you turn the page and Ted Cord's shot just point blank executed in the head. And I just remember sitting in the corner at the Starbucks, like turning the page and like dropping the comic, like, what the fuck? Because the whole series, that whole setup was like, oh, like this is going to be Ted Cord. Like the Justice League was kind of ignoring him, so it's like I'm going to solve this problem myself or whatever. I don't think it was oh man. This was so long ago. I don't think it was Identity Crisis. It was one of the crises, though.
Because wasn't Identity Crisis where they were trying to figure out who killed?
Yes, and it ended up being one of the shrinking people.
Yeah, because I remember there was a specific cover where Batman looked like he was defeated because they were trying to figure out who killed. Man, I don't remember it off the top of my head. It was so long ago.
Sue Dibney.
Yes.
Ralph Dibney's one of
Yes.
the elongated people. Yeah. Anyway, we're going on.
Per the trailer, so the thing about the trailers that I really love is there's the teaser trailer, which again, I got a thing for teaser trailers when it doesn't tell a lot and it's just like maybe one, maybe two images, and it does exactly that. It teases you, it entices you, and there's like a cool musical sting, and you're like, fuck, symbol, title card. The second trailer was really cool because it showed more of the action. You kind of get an idea of what the storyline is, and so you can kind of know what you're gonna go see. And then the third trailer came out, and it did a really interesting thing that like third trailers after the teaser trailer do. Usually, the more trailers come out, you're like, well, fuck, they just told the whole storyline. They told all the punchlines. I know exactly what's going to happen. Fucking probably
Fantastic
scene for
Four,
scene.
Rise of the Silver Surfer. But go ahead, continue.
But this trailer did something really interesting in that it didn't spoil anything, and yet it showed you like a few more things to entice you a bit more, as if you needed any more fucking enticing. I mean, fucking James Gunn himself was like, "This is gonna be the best fucking movie ever." I don't know if that's verbatim.
You're forgetting who said that before James Gunn? Tom Cruise.
What?
Tom Cruise got a sneak peek of the Flash movie, and he said it was the greatest superhero movie he's ever seen.
No shit. Whose couch did he ruin after he got excited?
I don't know. He might have watched it with Oprah, and he jumped up on the
He
couch.
jumped on
like
the
he-
couch and he cracked the baby feet. He's like, it's a great movie.
But-
Let's live another
Anyway,
50 fucking years.
back to
But
the
honestly,
trailer.
though, I'm hearing a lot of people give this movie positive reviews.
Oh yeah, everything I've been hearing.
I haven't heard it. Even social media, like nerd people that I follow that usually bash on everything, they're actually excited. They're like, I'm actually excited to go watch this in theater rather than wait until it drops on.
Yeah, I'm even that much more excited to go watch this movie. Although they should have saved a certain line that was in the trailer where Keaton
Michael
says,
Keaton?
"Yeah, he says, we want to get nuts. Let's get nuts." I'm like, save that. There
There will always be I mean, that's the thing with trailers is like, you want to show all the cool stuff, but there are always certain things that like, man, I wish they wouldn't have shown. And we'll get into it. Is obviously
we'll get
BVS.
into that. Oh yeah, we'll get into that.
I really wish they would have never shown Wonder Woman, but we'll get into that.
Or even Doomsday. Like I feel like they should,
absolutely should have never shown Doomsday.
that version of Doomsday, because that really wasn't Doomsday. That was a Kryptonian mutation. Zack Snyder said that the real Doomsday still exists out there in the universe.
And before we jump into that, Rudy, how'd you nerd this week?
Get the fuck out of here.
We didn't ask.
So
Oh, he said he watched Power Rangers.
No. I watched the Power Rangers thing.
I'm being respectful.
I also was a little busy, and I work on weekends. Like you guys have the weekends off. I have to work, so half my day is already taken up. I did finish reading my book, Forever Free, which is a follow up to The Forever War by James Hallerman. It's a hard sci-fi book, and I think you actually recommended that or mentioned that story to me, and I went looking for that book, and I liked the first one, so I read the next in that series.
Shit, like it's a sci-fi classic. I could be wrong, but I've been hearing rumblings about a movie. But anyways, that's on the other topic. But
Let's jump the fuck into it.
so with this Flash trailer, the only negative thing that I have been hearing is a lot of people don't like the special effects. Like they don't like the way that it looks.
It's really interesting.
I've heard that too, and I don't see it. I'm trying to think.
It's the perspective, the way the camera lens or whatever is shown. It's a weird. I don't know what that would be. It's almost like it's like a stretched out. Man, I don't know what that would be, but the angle or
They
whatever.
say like
perspective looks weird.
the special effects, like when you see Flash running and he's in like the Speed Force, whatever you want to say, like they say like it doesn't look finished.
And it very well might not be, right? It's still just a trailer.
And they don't like his
Special effects
his,
teams tend to work till the end.
I always thought
cowl.
Flash's special effects look a little weird anyway. At least the way he runs.
I think it would have
They
looked a
discussed
lot
that
better if Zack Snyder was still around, but that's just me. Come at me, bros. Come at me, haters.
One interesting that I think I read recently about Zack Snyder was that he has a painter's background. Like he's very artistic background. So like his color, so I mean that explains. You look at
300.
you look at Zack Snyder's movie
Pantheon.
filmography. They all just have that certain look that's just so cool, and I think that's something that maybe other filmmakers aspire to, and maybe that's why. Because that's I think a lot of these special effects in a lot of new movies, like they look good technically, but I feel like the coloring or something is off, and I think that's where maybe Snyder, with that kind of grittier look that he had to all of his movies and all the movies he was involved in, helped, because darker, grittier is always going to look better for special effects, CGI effects, versus a bright setting.
One of the complaints I heard was that it looked too smooth, like it looked too cartoonish, like as opposed to like the grittiness that you were speaking about.
But I mean, I could see it as like Zack Snyder's, I guess, like color palette, just cartooned a bit more, but nothing as bad as, and we'll get into it, Joss Whedon's Justice League. Blech.
That shit hurt my soul.
I got diarrhea from just saying it.
Anyway,
So to jump into it.
to close out the Flash trailer, do you guys think it's, I don't know how to say it, is it disrespectful that the last movie to close out that Snyderverse is being already kind of touted as the best superhero movie ever made? Or does that do a disservice to Zack Snyder, or is it like its own thing and shouldn't be judged in relation to that?
No, because it's not to say that it's apples and oranges, right? Because it's still in the Snyderverse, but it's, you want every movie, especially every superhero movie, to be fucking amazing. I would hate for reviews to come back and go like, well, it's kind of mediocre, and you're like, yeah, win for Snyder. No, I still want it to be an amazing movie. So I don't think it's a jab or anything like that towards because I mean that's why we're going to do the deep dive we're doing now, is because I mean, if I'm to speak for everyone, I think we can all say we loved the Snyderverse, or
Absolutely.
Snyder's vision,
Yeah, and vision. I like the way you put that. Snyder's vision ultimately, because he was involved in what, like 5 of these movies, but as we looked up today, there was 15 movies in this
And one show.
DCEU.
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. Yeah, all of these fall under that old DCEU, and it was all stemming from that vision that started with Snyder. To answer your question, though, Rudy, I think it does. I don't know if disrespectful or anything is the right word, but it sucks. It sucks because this is like watching that trailer reminded me of the Snyderverse and seeing it and then hearing these ideas that this might be the greatest thing ever. It's like, oh, if they had just given it all of it a chance, it just given it a time. But now, granted, maybe someone could argue like 15 movies in, if this is it, like maybe it should have been killed off. But
even with these 15 movies, like I personally feel like the world took something from me that I will never get back, which is that Zack Snyder 5 movie, of a Superman evolution that visually in his world, like how he creates things, like like the way the movie is visually painted. I haven't seen any superhero movie that compares to like the style. Like Zack Snyder's movies to me feel like it's based in like the real world. Everything else, like I'm not bashing anything like Marvel or anything like.
Our opinions can be exclusive to a particular thing without smashing everything else.
I'm a fan of everything, but it's just one of those things. Like I wish they would have let him finish his 5 movie project and then get into this Flashpoint or introduce everybody else. Like if they didn't like it, then they could have just rebooted it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I almost wish that they would have just numbered them like Man of Steel Part 1 of 5, just so everyone knew from the get-go that there was more story, because I think people like complain like people need to know that there's more to it, because I think a lot of people expected the Marvel setup of like, here's a story, here's a story.
The Marvel recipe.
And from the very beginning, I think Snyder and DC and Warner Brothers should have established like, we're not doing that.
To not go too far, because earlier you were mentioning like, we had this, but we didn't have, we didn't get the full vision. Do you feel though it is better to have loved and lost than to have never ever loved?
No, damn that. Give me what was deserved. Give me what was deserved. No. This is my time, y'all. I'm going to get out everything that we've been talking about for years.
Yeah.
With no mercy.
No Vaseline. Say it.
No Vaseline. Whatever you want to say.
This is our new war chant.
Because it was like a thing
no
like
Vaseline!
No mercy. No Vaseline.
Because I feel like because of however you felt about the Snyderverse, that is dubbed now Snyderverse. But look, don't get me wrong. There were certain things in that movie verse that I didn't like. I didn't care for, but I could have pushed that stuff aside and just enjoyed what he gave us. But
that's what I mean.
I feel like to add what Doug said about, they should have numbered it, yada, yada, yada. But nobody thought in the beginning that Zack Snyder necessarily had a plan. And with that said, with Marvel, everybody was looking at Marvel like, oh, they have it down, which they were doing it. They were doing it right in the beginning in that Infinity saga, like all those movies in there. They were going in the right direction, but they necessarily didn't technically have a plan until later on when they started to unfold everything.
They retconned a few things.
Yeah. But with that said, there was little Easter eggs, whatever you want to say, to say that Zack Snyder, after he was pushed out, that they want to say he quit or whatever,
unceremoniously let go.
But yeah, like there were things that you can look back.
His daughter killed herself and then he left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the suicide hotline number is 988. Because there's the theme now.
Yeah. But he came out after the fact and said that he had a plan and everything was going in motion and it was supposed to be a, Superman character development arc. Mm-hmm. And even when you watch Man of Steel, I didn't find out until I got Man of Steel on DVD, but it was the Terraformer, the thing that was
Yeah.
underneath where the beam was coming out. When it was destroyed, you see the three iconic Brainiac symbol. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it wasn't until then, because I really didn't hear anybody talk about it when it was in the theater, not to say that anybody really cared, but it was a thing that, like I said, I found out while I was watching it, and I was slow motioning that scene for some reason. Maybe it was to see the fluctuation from Henry Cavill to Christopher Reeve. But
I heard about that.
yeah, like that scene where the beam comes down, that was supposed to be a tribute to Christopher Reeve. Like he actually, put Christopher Reeve's face in there.
Very cool.
But anyways, that Brainiac symbol was there, and then when he got let go, he came out and said that Man of Steel 2 was supposed to be involved with Brainiac, and I was like, damn it.
Yeah, because personally,
It was true.
I've always liked, like Superman, kind of shown in BVS where Batman tells Superman something along the lines of like, you're no hero. You don't fear anything. It's just because Superman's just super powered. It's like, what the fuck are you going to be afraid of, right? And I've always liked the idea of the whole brains versus bronze, which is why his main nemesis is Lex Luthor. Hey, Mr. Luthor. It's to have a non-powered man kicking Superman's ass it's juicy.
Allegedly. But with that said, now let's just deep dive into the Snyderverse, because we're already going to get into it.
Yeah.
So do we want to start?
I was going to say, let's just start off with Snyder's visual storytelling, the way he puts an image. I don't want to skip all the way ahead to his Justice League, but everyone complains about the slow motion. And I think what we were talking earlier, I was talking to someone earlier this week about how that slow motion is the equivalent of a comic book splash page.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
You told me that.
Yeah.
And once you told me, I rewatched a BVS and I saw exactly that.
Yeah, because anyone that's read a comic book, you've come across a splash page. Which, for anyone that doesn't know, a splash page is like the big, usually 2-page, but sometimes it's just 1 page. But it's the one.
It's in the center. It's in the center of the comic book where you can actually see the staples. But it's also manga, anime, Matrix stuff. That's where Matrix got all these things from, the slow motion stuff. Like it's all like manga used to do that. I mean, not manga, but anime. When they animated certain things, a lot of people didn't really like anime because it had a lot of these slow motion moments, or you see like a character jump kick, but it's just them jump kicking in the air, where you see like action lines in the background. It's equivalent to
Scott Pilgrim did it pretty well.
But I mean, Scott Pilgrim's an example, because Scott Pilgrim was another movie that was trying to recreate the comic book, and I think that's what Snyder was doing. So my point about the splash page was, those were those pages that you would turn to in a comic, and it was the full page, right? Because normally a comic book is a bunch of frames with dialogue and stuff like that. Splash page might still have dialogue, but for the most part, you were stopped and you were taking in this very detailed big picture, and Snyder captured that with the slow motion, where everything kind of stopped. You as the audience like just took it all in. What was happening? What was the action? Who was getting punched? Where was someone flying? And I think that's just something that, this meme world that we want to live in, where everyone's like just anxious to make a joke about something. They were anxious to make the joke about the slow motion, and I think no one stopped to appreciate what he was doing, which was giving us that comic book experience in the movie. And that's something that Snyder does all the time.
And to those who hated the slow-mo, if you want to see a movie with completely gratuitous, superfluous slow-mo, I would tell you to go watch Six Underground, Michael Bay movie. You don't fucking need a slow-mo. I think if you sped up all the slow-mo shots, the movie would probably been 35 minutes long.
Awesome.
Useless slow-mo. Hated that movie.
I'm really surprised Michael Bay hasn't done a superhero movie yet. Has he? Probably not.
I don't know.
It was unnecessary.
Wait, didn't Michael?
I also hate his use of drones and ambulance.
Wait, but didn't Michael
Sorry,
Bay
do
do
it.
Transformers or?
Yeah, he did Transformers.
Yeah, I mean-
Superhero-ish.
But no, Zack Snyder, man. I mean, it's a fucking lesson in movie making, because I've said it before. When you're making a movie, when you're filming something, every shot, the music, the way that everything is angled, the lines pointing to this, that, and the other, the ratio of everything, the color palette, everything, absolutely everything should be informing the story. And Zack Snyder just, chef's kiss, does it so fucking well. He even pulls from old art and stuff like that.
I will say, because we need to talk about his first one, which is Man of Steel.
Yeah, so the world.
I will never forget that beginning on Krypton.
Oh,
That was amazing. The way that it was shot, just the way, you finally got to see Krypton from many different angles. We got the Zod speech, which is still money to this day. I still say it in the shower randomly.
I will find them as you're looking for your window.
Oh yeah, when I'm looking for my soap for my shampoo, I'm like, when I'm blind. But with all that said, just that intro scene on Krypton, which I was not ready for because it was so good, that had me excited to see what he was going to do with Man of Steel.
Yeah. Well, I think for the longest time there was rumors about a series based on that Krypton. Now we ended up getting a Krypton series, which I don't know if anyone watched.
No, but the main baddie was what, Lobo?
They brought in Lobo eventually. I don't know if I ever finished watching it. I enjoyed it for a little bit, but then it got slow. As we've discussed the other week, where it's like something gets slow, I'm going to fall asleep and I'm going to stop watching it. Yeah, you got to keep things moving or interesting or bring me along. Don't slow down for some quiet whispering. CW.
Oh, Jesus.
Quiet whispering.
But I mean, I think, okay,
Smallville.
so to epically introduce the Snyderverse, right? The world was given Man of Steel on June 14th, 2013. It only got a 56% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I remember watching that movie and just being blown away because the last Superman movie I'd seen was Brandon Routh's Superman, and this was a darker, grittier Superman with a fucking great retelling of an origin story.
But
And
you
a
know
buff
what's crazy
Superman.
to me? You know what's crazy to me about? I love the Christopher Reeve Superman movies because they're just classics, and it's the Superman the movie, and all that stuff. But then we got the Brandon Routh. It was cool, but it was one of those movies where people complain. They're like Superman, he didn't even throw a punch. He didn't, fight anybody, yada, 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 this and that. And then we get Man of Steel and he's putting in work. And they still complain. The Christopher Reeve, Man of Steel, when he fought Zod and the other Kryptonians, it's a classic moment, but you wanted more. And
yeah, I wanted more V-cut in their uniforms. I didn't see belly button. I needed to just go
that.
deeper.
We got that in Man of Steel. He delivered all that stuff, and it was just one of the moments where people also felt they're he's fighting in the public, they're destroying all these things, and it's like, this isn't, the Superman that, that we know. Like,
That's
he should
exactly
be,
it.
He should be saving things. Like, I do feel like Zack Snyder slipped up a little bit when he was fighting the Kryptonians and the military was there and the plane was going down. I feel like he could have had that moment could have been like a perfect like Spider-Man / Superman moment, like where he's getting pummeled, but he's trying to rescue this chopper before it actually falls down, rather than just letting it fall down. And I feel like that element was where a lot of people had a problem with him, because he's Superman, which I don't feel like he was technically Superman yet.
That's what the point I wanted to make.
But
They purposely called it Man of Steel versus Superman.
Yeah.
He
So
wasn't Superman.
he was gonna evolve into this character that we all know and love, like Superman, not Man of Steel.
But so I think you touched on something though, which was the comparison, and I think that's something that Snyder obviously faced, and it James Gunn is about to face, which is
Get ready.
compared to Marvel. And I hate doing the comparison. I don't think the nerd world should live in this constant comparison.
Yeah. Man, this Joker was better than that Joker. Blah,
well,
blah,
but
blah.
that's what I'm getting
Yeah,
at, though,
exactly.
is DC has had so many iterations of a lot of these characters, such as the Christopher Reeves Superman, and then Batman obviously has been played by quite a few actors. Joker's been played by quite a few actors. And there was the animated series, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and then Batman... the Batman,
I love those Justice League.
And then
Avengers
the
and
DC
Superman.
movies.
Yeah, you DC characters have had a lot of iterations, and so anytime that someone new comes along, Zack Snyder with Man of Steel or James Gunn is about to experience, there's instantly this comparison.
Yeah, even that new 52 Superman. Not a lot of people.
Oh
like
yeah,
him.
even in the comic books, yeah, exactly, same
They're like,
thing.
he was too cocky.
So that's something that I think maybe the audience needs to be just aware of. Just like, look, accept, like, let's not compare. Let's look at this thing for what it is. Because, I mean, again, I hate to make the comparison, but like, Chris Evans coming in as Captain America, other than that one weird, like, lame movie they made way back in the 80s or something with Captain America.
Yeah, there's
like,
no
it was just like,
comparison.
okay, that's Captain America.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr.
There's only
was
one
absolutely-
America's ass. God damn it.
Robert Downey Jr. was absolutely, Tony Stark. The Hulk, there's some comparisons, but Spider-Man, same thing. Like when Tom Holland was cast as Spider-Man, it was instantly like just this comparison. And I think Marvel's had that privilege of not having to deal with that. They're about to face it with X-Men. If they start bringing in X-Men and Fantastic Four, they're about to face that, like,
Yeah.
and it's vicious. Like the world out there, as soon as you have something to compare it to,
That's why I said.
Oh, no, it is.
there's viciousness to it.
That's why I said earlier that the nerd community. Here's a message out to all of you nerds listening: is you can like something exclusively and not have to compare it or bash anything else. You can absolutely just like that one thing, the standalone thing, even if it's part of a trilogy or anything like that.
I
Like
think
that's yours. Like that's yours to have. To add to this, little conversation here. It's a thing even with reboots. Like you have your original cast, and there's people, the fans that love that cast, and you're like, I can't see this part played by anybody else, but
But it ruined it for me, is what they say all the time.
But you have, reboots coming up, and it's one of those things like I feel you need to take it for what it is.
Yeah.
Don't look at what you got,
Yeah.
prior, to all this. Regardless of what it is, if it's bad or good, you still have your series that
Yeah.
you can always go back to and watch. But give it a chance, even if it's not that character that you love, because we all get attached to characters, and when certain people play these roles, we get attached to that actor, that person. You when you see that person, you think, oh, Superman, Batman, Harry Potter, whatever it may be, because that was the first time time you actually saw that person on screen, so you're automatically attached to that person.
I think the running thing too is when people go, "Who's your Batman? Who's your Superman? Who's your Spider-Man?" You know what I mean? But go ahead, Doug.
Oh, I was going to say, Jermaine, you and I think we've said it maybe a million times in the many decades of our
I'll
friendship.
say it on
It's
record.
Review something for what it is. Like, we all loved Christopher Nolan's / Christian Bale's Batman.
Yeah, that
But-
reimagined Batman was money.
Yeah, that was great. But it was those 3 movies. You can always go back and watch those 3 movies. They're on streaming. They're
That
on
is
Blu-ray
yours
and stuff
for all
that.
time.
Yeah, it doesn't go away with a Ben Affleck Batman, with a Robert Pattinson
yeah.
Batman, or whoever we're going to get next. It doesn't go away. So when someone else gets cast as Batman for whatever it is, review for what it is, and yeah, you can have like the conversation. Oh, this is a better Joker. This is a better Batman.
Yeah.
But you can always have the
ultimately,
conversation. We're not saying that you can't.
Yeah, obviously, and it's a
saying
good
it.
conversation
You
to
can't.
have. Don't let that conversation maybe drag down your feelings towards what's being presented to
Yeah.
you.
So to add to what Doug is saying, my philosophy when reviewing things, I do it like this, and I will break it down for you guys.
School
So
me.
if a chef or you went to a restaurant, right, and you not knowing anything about this meal, where this meal represents the movie, this plate, this platter he's going to give to you, and he drops it down right there in front of you. You have no expectation of what this is because you didn't know how he prepared it or what it is. You didn't order this, so this is what he gives you. Critique the plate that's in front of you, not what you thought it was or what you wanted it to be. Just critique that plate. Critique it for what it is, and that's how I go into movies and review or judge a movie. We have our expectations in our head of what we want to see and all that stuff, but it's what they deliver. That's what you judge it on.
Well said.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Said.
And
That's
that-
why you're the main hype. You're the main hype man. You're the main hype man.
It's
The
kind
shirts
of
are
reminds
coming.
me of a conversation though that me and Isaac were having the other day about music. How people are so passionate about certain bands, and when they come out with new stuff, like bands evolve, they want to play different music, and fans go, oh, "This doesn't sound like the stuff that I like from the previous album." Do more of that. I want the same thing but different.
Oh yeah, no. It's so many things have it where they go, well, I really loved the first one, and I want another one, but make it different, but make it the same. The fuck are you talking about? Just let the creators create. Let them present you something. I said it before, and I'll fucking say it again. Let the creators create something, present it to you. Let him cook, and let them scratch an itch that you didn't know existed. Bringing it back around when again, and 2013 when Man of Steel hit that screen, my eyeballs peeped what I saw. I didn't know that I needed it, and I did.
Well, exactly. When
I needed every bit of that movie.
When the trailer dropped, I remember there was like that slightly out of focus scene with like the butterfly and the kid Clark Kent with the cape, and I just remember thinking, me as someone that grew up with comic books and superhero, and Jermaine, I know we've talked about it. It's like, man, I wish someone would make an artistic. Like, just because it's a superhero movie doesn't mean it can't be artistic or like approached from an Oscar-winning
Exactly.
angle.
Absolutely.
And
So
just
fuck you, Scorsese. I said it there.
So just seeing that trailer, that's Zack Snyder imagery of the kid with the cape and the angle, the coloring, everything. It was like, I just remember seeing this like, this is it. Like, we are finally going to get a Superman movie that is not approached from just, hey, we're making a comic book movie. It's approached from someone that like is gonna do it right, do it justice. Because comic books are art. Sorry.
You know what it felt like when I saw that first teaser trailer? It felt like I was presented a heaping glass of water as in a desert that I didn't know that I was in.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Gorgeous, yeah.
So deep.
We needed that. I mean, you said Snyder was involved in 5 of the films? Of the 5 of the 15?
Yeah,
films?
the first 5, Man of Steel, BVS, he was directly involved with. Suicide Squad, I think that was still kind of the umbrella of like, hey, we're trying to make this look like the Snyderverse.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, he
wrote Wonder Woman.
Yeah, he was one of 3, I think, of the story writers. He didn't do the screenplay, but
No, it was all Zack Snyder. I don't care what you
and
say.
then Justice League.
Yeah, and
that
then the
got taken
Justice
from
League,
him.
which came out in 2017, and halfway through that, unfortunately, his daughter had committed suicide again. The suicide hotline number is 988. And then Joss Whedon took over that, and then it became a little bit of a clusterfuck. But there were still more titles that
A little bit? Are you sure about that?
But look. I'm not gonna lie though. Yeah, we're skipping over, but when that Josh Whedon, Zack Snyder Justice League started, when Batman was on the rooftop, and he was like moving like how Batman should.
Was that not part of the Snyder?
That was
cut?
Whedon.
Yeah,
It
like
wasn't in the Snyder cut. I was shocked.
I'll give him that.
Yeah,
I'm
I-
gonna give
yeah,
him
like,
that
I was
I will
shocked.
give him that.
because I've always wanted to see a Batman move like
Other
that.
than that, fuck Whedon.
that only that moment when it started where Batman was hunting the parademon.
Yeah.
I was like, this is how this movie started?
Mm-hmm.
It got me already, but then after that, it went down the Looney Tune like.
Well, even before that, in BVS, which is your Batflick introduction, to see Batman move like that, something right off the fucking pages.
Yeah,
It's not a man. It's not a man in spandex. Adam West. I remember his name. Fuck you guys. Hold on that shame button. Okay. It's not a dude in a rubber suit who can't move his neck.
But in a way, Batfleck's suit was a rubber. I mean, like it wasn't the armor, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Yeah, I appreciate that Snyder was like, yeah, he's going to
Comic
be
book
in
accurate.
he's going to be in a Batman
Frank
suit.
Miller comic book accurate.
I still
I love
remember.
that. I love that so much.
I still remember for BVS
Buff ass Batman and buff ass
when
Superman.
Kevin Smith came out and was like,
Yeah.
"I saw the Batman suit."
Let me tell you what he's doing.
He gasped when he said he saw what the Batman suit looked like, and I was like, "Oh, you're so fucking."
Well, I think
That's, by the way, that teaser photo. I think it was a black and white with him with Batfleck
Yeah,
in front of the Batmobile.
Oh yeah.
Where's my cum poncho?
yeah, everyone did their compods. Red alert,
But
white alert.
I brought my cum poncho. Hold on.
I'll have zipper sound effects for the next one.
is
To the compots.
To the cum poncho.
is that the picture now that's known as Sad Batman now or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
It is like
That was the meme for a while. Sad Batman.
yeah, like it was dead.
So there was a moment where Ben Affleck did BVS, right? That was its introduction, and then he did a bit of a little flashback or whatever cameo in Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad. He wasn't anywhere in Wonder Woman. He obviously was part of the Justice League, and didn't have a hand. Did he have a hand in Birds of Prey? Did he pop up in that?
No.
Anyway, so
I think he was.
so after the whole Justice League thing, he was supposed to have. He was
Wait,
supposed
Birds
to
of Prey.
Birds of Prey.
He was in.
The Batman underwater with the rebreather, wasn't
No,
that?
that was
Suicide Squad.
That was Suicide
Okay,
Squad. That
never
was
mind.
Suicide
Yeah, yeah,
Squad.
Harley Quinn. You're close.
and Deadshot. But so after Justice League, he was supposed to have his own movie, and there was a whole thing. There was a whole thing, and then he didn't get to have one, and Joe Manganiello was supposed to be Deathstroke.
The Terminator.
Which, by the way, fun fact: guess who got to see the Deathstroke mask in person? Guess who got to see the script in person? Guess who got to go to Manganiello's house in person?
How hard were you?
Very hard. I didn't know that I was in their house.
Oh.
And I was
you
like,
did
what's
not
this?
know.
I saw his Dungeons and Dragons fucking table and everything.
Shut the fuck up.
I swear to God, did you not know that?
How have you not told me that story?
Oh, you haven't heard of this?
I
No.
repeat it. Thank you. Yeah. I've said it before. You just don't listen to me, Rudy.
You
I-
fucking son of a bitch.
I got
But
your back.
I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna rub your testicles later just to get that third hand Manganiello.
I wouldn't have showered.
Mangello.
Manganiello.
Which it was after BVS, that after credit scene?
Justice League.
No, it was after
Justice League.
Justice League.
You got to see Deathstroke.
I was
and
so
the
ready
that whole
for that movie. I
possible
was
creation.
so ready for that movie.
Yeah.
Especially, oh my God.
I'm leading up to a point though. So essentially, Batfleck was done. He had backed out of it. There was all this other stuff. Yeah, he came back for reshoots for the Joss Whedon Justice League, and you can tell where those reshoots took place because you got Puffy, Bruce Wayne. And so when the Flash was announced, and when you saw the trailer, I mean, I got so excited and I was so happy that I got to see Batfleck again. Although, let me retract a little bit or go back a little bit. In the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, the 4-hour, Batfleck did come back for that one for a little bit of an extended scene at the end. But it's nice.
Everybody would come back for Zack Snyder.
Absolutely.
Like,
that's how
everybody
amazing of a
had
guy
a
Snyder
good
is.
like they were no bad things said or it was rumored or whatever it was going on with Zack Snyder. Like everybody came back happily when Zack Snyder even
Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon came back.
That's what I wanted to say.
To
reprise his role as Rod.
Yeah,
Zod. Rod.
Yeah, to reprise it.
General
Rod.
Rod. General Rod, everybody.
What?
Shame.
Did you just say fucking General Rod?
From this day forth.
Freudian.
I am fucking beside myself.
From this day forth.
corrected it.
Your name is now
There's a master class in like
Boo this man.
There's a master class in like naming though, right? Like General Rod is not intimidating at all. You change that R to a Z.
So that was that's your superhero name when you went into Joe's house.
Boy, oh boy, was I General Admiral Rod.
That's what I had at General Rod.
I think we all would have had a General Rod going on.
You know what? When I bring that up, everyone goes, "Did you get to see Sofia Vergara?" I go, "I don't give a shit." Fucking Joe Manganiello, man.
Oh, I would have killed to just roll like a D20 in his dungeon.
Dude, I had just watched
And then spit a D20.
a YouTube video.
Oh my god.
About him getting like a brand new Dungeons and Dragons table. Was that? Did you see that table with the?
No, that is recently. This I saw this years and years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, isn't he supposed to be doing like a Dungeons and Dragons series? But we're just talking right now.
Dragonlance.
Dragonlance, yeah.
Dragonlance.
But But to add to what Isaac was saying about
General Rod.
General Rod.
but with the solo Batfleck that we were supposed to get,
Yeah.
Noir.
you don't know
was
how
the
bad I wanted
phrase.
that movie, especially after we had the Arkham series.
In the video games.
Yeah, the video game series for those of you who don't play video games, but like just
Yeah, do yourself a favor. Play those games. I don't game a lot, and those games, amazing.
or even just go watch the cutscenes. Like if you don't play video games, like there's just certain video games
Rudy's
that you just have
percolating
to
over
watch.
there.
No, but like
cutscenes.
didn't fucking Ben Affleck and the director reference those? Like this is how we want it to look. Like
I was
it was
ready.
like holy shit. Like
I
let's
was
go.
ready, and the world
Yeah,
took that from
what?
me.
When you think about that, his armor, his suit was very much like that. That Batman's suit. God, and fucking voiced by Kevin Conroy, minus the Batman Origins, but voiced by Kevin Conroy. Rest in peace.
Man, I was ready for that solo Batman flick, but
Well, that's what kind of sucks. Starting up. I mean, the Snyderverse in general. I mean, I guess Wonder Woman and Aquaman kind of technically got their own solo movies, but
Yeah.
I was gonna say we didn't get. I
They
guess all
were
we're missing
building-
really is that Batman. That Batman movie.
There's like so many things that I feel like people, like passed over in this universe. Like especially when we got BVS, like you had Batman's history. Like he's older,
Well, sorry to interrupt. I want to preface this. This is something we talked about the other week, and I want to say something about the Snyderverse was, if you're familiar with DC Comics, they have something called Elseworld, and that's what this was. Snyder was presenting us with an Elseworld. This was not the DC from the comics. This was not the DC from the cartoons or from previous movies or
which
shows.
I was fine with that.
And I think we were fine with that, and I think that's maybe something that hurt the Snyderverse from the get-go was anyone that was in tune to the nerd culture. Like you brought up Kevin Smith's comment. Kevin Smith was not leaking, but saying a lot of information that for those of us that follow Kevin Smith, we took in, and we went into the Snyder movies with that in mind. Like, I think Kevin Smith was the first to bring up the idea that Snyder has this like 5 movie. I don't know if he mentioned specifically 5, but Kevin Smith was the one that brought up.
He might have came out with that after the fact that people didn't know.
Yeah, but I think he said that Snyder was coming in with this continuing story. But if you weren't following Kevin Smith or IGN or any of these other major news things, if you were just like the average moviegoer, you went into any of these movies, Man of Steel, BVS, thinking like, oh, it's superhero, it's going to be like Marvel, and it wasn't. And it's like, it almost makes you wish like they could have prefaced the movies with like, I mean, maybe it would be lame, but I almost feel just before the movie starts, someone pops up and say, hey, this is different. Like, this is part of a bigger story. This is something different. Tell. I know, but I remember specifically being at Man of Steel, and like a bunch of parents were there with their kids. And I mean, it's like, I hate to say that Batman versus Superman or a Superman or a Batman movie wouldn't be for kids, but those stories aren't always going to be for kids, and BVS wasn't.
Yeah.
And to appreciate BVS, I think it was a little bit above that family movie, because it was about like government politics.
Oh, yeah,
it's all that stuff that I liked.
And so
Pirates of the Caribbean movie or anything like that.
That's the other thing too. To go all the way back to the beginning of this conversation, what made the Snyderverse very unique was not just an artistic view of our favorite comic book world, right? Of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, but also this deep dive into the politics of being a superhero in modern era, and the psychological aspect of being a superhero. Full stop. You know, like you said, it was called Man of Steel, not Superman, because he wasn't the Superman yet that we know, that we're used to, knowing. It was supposed to have been a Superman arc.
Yeah.
All of this Man of Steel.
And on the opposite end of it, Batman was an older Batman that we weren't used to seeing in this medium of movies or shows. And same thing, he was going to have his arc of kind of bringing himself back.
Of like a redemption.
Right. Yeah.
So from where?
So BVS was, almost pulled exactly, even from the look of Batman, pulled from Frank Miller's The Dark Knight. And I loved it because that comic book was dark, and it had that older Batman. Granted, it had a strangely cocky, dickish Superman, right?
Yeah,
but creative control, and it worked for the movie.
And that comic book is credited with like the rise of maybe the more adult comic book. And it was DC, and DC throughout history has always been known for like kind of pushing those edges. Marvel has always been kind of like the lowest common denominator. And I don't want to bash on Marvel. Marvel makes great stuff. They always will. But DC has always been known for like kind of pushing those edges. And The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's first Batman story, was that moment where I think the world kind of woke up to like, oh, comic books can be something with some substance, with some adult categories. So it's fitting that Snyder used it, and to go along with this overall conversation that I think we're all getting to, where it was just like Snyder was trying to do something that was not what we were used to, and maybe people weren't used to it. Sorry.
And as shown in Batman versus Superman, The Dawn of Justice, which you guys remember seeing like the hype of just the logo.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think we talked about that the other week.
And what was amazingly fascinating about that particular movie is that it was the theme.
The director's cut, extended cut, BVS, not
that director's cut, by the way,
theatrical.
The extended cut had it was 31 minutes longer. It had 60 extended scenes 18 additional scenes, 11 scenes with alternative footage, and 8 extended scenes with alternate, I think, dialogue. There was so much. It was so like explained so much of the movie where people were like, "Wait,
It
why
was
did he do this
30
and the other?"
minutes. 30 minutes. They could have gave us that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
but so the BVS it again, it was Superman's story arc, right? So he's still a newish Superman. Trying to figure out, is he doing it the right way? He's doing it the way his dad would have done it, and is it working for him? Right? Hold on, and then you have an old, grizzled, fucking violent Batman.
Oh, he was a terror in that universe because he was branding people, but
He was branding people, knowing that those criminals that were seen with the brand was a death sentence. But he's like, wasn't by my hand, but still knew what he was doing.
oh yeah.
You know, and so it wasn't just, you know, two caped crusaders, two caped people physically fighting, but they were also fighting to discover or rediscover their own humanity. I mean,
While being manipulated by Lex Luthor, which
Yeah,
I
fuck
feel
that
like
guy.
a lot of
everything-
people. I feel like a lot of people missed.
Yeah,
missed
that was the
yeah.
aspect, you know, they looked at that Lex Luthor, oh, he's, you know, like cheesy. I'm like, he's the one pulling all the strings behind
I
the
like an
scenes. But,
eccentric Lex Luthor.
I really liked Jesse Eisenberg.
Eisenberg,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't mind it at all. But with adding to what Isaac just said, it's like you have this Batman that's old and grizzled and all that stuff, and then you have somebody like Kal-El, you know, Superman comes into this world, and it's a thing that I feel like Zack Snyder's verse or world, it's more on the realistic side. And I would say, if you have somebody, honestly, in all honesty, that you found out that had abilities like Superman that came here in this world that
Yeah.
we have today, oh, it would be a problem.
Oh yeah, you would,
Nobody's gonna be like, oh my,
You know what?
a superhero.
I loved that line in Suicide Squad where Amanda Waller was like,
Oh, she's the best.
yeah,
Great
and
casting,
and I'm
by the
so
way,
happy
Viola
that
Davis.
James Gunn has already said like we're keeping her,
dude. Powerhouse.
but she said something along those like, we got lucky with Superman.
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah.
next one,
Yeah.
the next one might not be, and that's I've said before, not on this podcast, but with you guys
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We got more world building, again, a motif of our show.
Mm-hmm.
We got more world building in those first 3 movies, I would say, Man of Steel,
Yeah.
BVS, and then Suicide Squad,
Mm-hmm.
than MCU had given us in forever. And I
Without-
hate making that comparison constantly, but
Without a Samuel L. Jackson in the end, which was the only thing that really connected all the movies. But I'm not hating. I'm just saying.
yeah.
I mean, if you want to count, you know, the Flash saying, "Find them,
Oh,
find them all,
see,
find us."
and this is the thing. If we would have
You okay there, Rudy?
Yeah, I just bided my time.
that Flash scene where he pops up, you know, in that whatever you want
Nightmare
to say,
scene.
that nightmare scene. That scene in BVS harkens to Justice League.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like unless a movie like spoon feeds certain people, you won't remember that. Just, you know, for most people won't go back and be like, oh, that's what that Flash was referring to when Superman was brought back to life and he was going crazy. That was the moment that Flash was talking about in BVS. You know, when
Lois
he was,
is the key.
Lois is the key to bring him back. But it wasn't specifically in BVS. The moment that they needed to find her was in Justice League, and I feel like a lot of people just saw that as some random scene because it wasn't explained. Like that. that
Again,
moment,
that's where the numbering. I feel like I don't want to say like it needed to be dumbed down, but like if they would have just numbered it, I think people would have maybe accepted like, oh, it will be explained. Like, okay, it's part of a bigger story. But if you leave it as just what it is and you look at something, and I think that's where maybe like all these nerd stories, even Star Wars, I think suffered from it a little bit, where after episode 7, people were mad that stuff wasn't explained. It's like, you don't think there's going to be 2 more? Right? And
You know
so
what,
it's,
though?
it's the same thing with this.
But here's the thing about. Sorry to jump in, but
No
it's-
way.
The thing about Snyder, though, if you kind of really look at it, he's like, I'm not going to spoon feed it to you. You're either going to fucking know it or not. I'm not going to insult the audience. You know, I'm going to trust the audience.
Well, and I guess that's the thing between like the creative point and me being a nerd following everything. It's like, yeah, no, don't spoon feed me. But from a marketing point of view, like, I feel like they maybe needed to do something more to just let everyone know, like, we are not going to do the same thing that has been done before, because that's what everyone. I mean, it's weird because it's a double-edged sword. That's what everyone expected, and that's also what everyone hated.
Yeah,
and people hated DC because they were coming into the game late, quote unquote late, and they didn't want to see the same thing, but then they hated them for not doing. I mean, it was such a weird dynamic. Again, it's that weird comparison thing that anyone in this world has.
What happened?
Oh, no. Did you have something?
I had a question. We saw Batman versus Superman for the first time together, right? The extended cut in San Diego with a very special screening.
Yeah. I think I brought the Blu-ray down.
Yeah.
Just from watching that, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but just watching that and then sitting there afterwards, it was just like, what the fuck? Like, why couldn't this have been the theatrical release? Like, why was this withheld? And it goes to like the spoon feeding thing. Like, it wasn't. It didn't feel like they spoon fed details in it, but it felt like they took food out of my mouth.
They held nutrition back from us, like out of our milkshake. Like there was things added to the milkshake that they took out. But I honestly felt like the reason why they didn't want a 3-hour movie, it goes down to like a money thing to me. I could be wrong, but there was an article that I was reading to say that they didn't want it to be 3 hours because if it was 3 hours, they couldn't get a certain amount of showings in a day.
That's true.
They wanted more.
That's always what it's going to be. It's going to boil down to
side to it. But the thing that a lot of people were complaining about in BVS, like the real like people that had real critiques, there were certain elements in the movie that they felt like was kind of cut short or things weren't explained, but within that extra 30 minutes that would have made that movie, just 3 hours, like they explained everything more in detail.
So everybody had seen that Ultimate Edition, all the extended cut, way before me. I had forgotten that it existed. And when
it's only on the Blu-ray.
And when I brought it up to you guys
at the time,
I got shamed without the shame button. You got to go fucking. And I was like, all right, I'll watch it in preparation for this. And I saw it and immediately messaged you guys and was like, why the fuck haven't I seen? By the way,
that's what I'm saying.
It's on HBO.
It's on
Max.
HBO now.
And I was so mad at myself for not having seen it sooner because of all of what you're saying. It had those explanations, little simple explanations, a fucking simple 2-line dialogue to explain why, I don't know, Superman didn't see the bomb in the dude's wheelchair.
Yeah.
It
was made of lead.
Yeah.
And it had Lex Luthor. Like you saw a lot more about Lex Luthor. You saw a lot more Clark Kent doing his investigation.
Well, it showed what happened in
Batman
Africa.
breaking into.
Oh man, the whole Africa thing too. Yeah.
Lex Corp. Oh yeah. Everything in that movie was a setup, and a lot of people didn't like. They either just didn't like it, but Lex was the one that was behind all that stuff, and I felt
I like the focus on the kryptonite too, the hunt to get it.
Oh yeah,
I just want to say, like, a phrase I find myself saying more and more these days is like self-fulfilling prophecy, and I almost feel like the studio did that with BVS, where it was just like, I don't know, people aren't going to like it. They don't want to sit through 3 hours of it. Cut 30 minutes, and they cut 30 important minutes. And then the movie came out and it wasn't that good. And they were just like, see? And it's like, well, yeah, you cut the good stuff. Of course, like people don't like it. You made it nonsensical. I mean, I don't want to say it was nonsensical because I left the theatrical release of BVS. I recognize that I was filling in a lot of that stuff, but I was comfortable enough because I am part of this nerd world. I know Batman, I know Superman, and like I was able to kind of fill in like, okay, I think I know what happened in Africa.
Yeah, but
it was a
created
setup.
plot holes.
It created plot holes that like, yeah, I had to go fill in, but I could easily fill them in, but it's still, that doesn't make a good movie, right? If you gotta fill them in, even if they are easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then seeing, those 30 extra minutes, like, see, and I was right with my fill-ins, but this is a much better view of it. And it should have never came to this. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like I said, it's just like this dude's like, see, it's bad. It's like, well, yeah, you killed it.
I have two things that we've talked about, but now that we're on here, I have to bring it up, and it's from Man of Steel, and then the second one is from BVS. The whole thing with Superman and General
Zod.
General Rod, aka General Zod. But
Hey,
the whole
kneel before me. Kneel before Rod.
kneel before my Rod. But
I'll show
the
you.
last
I'll show you your kryptonite.
I think I downloaded the wrong Superman.
I downloaded the right one.
that's the porn. But
There's a P in that thing.
the ending of Man of Steel where he legit had to kill Zod, like there's things in movies where people have to realize like there's certain things that's going to happen that's a quote unquote plot device.
Yeah.
And at that moment, like I said, he's not Superman yet. He doesn't have no Fortress of Solitude. There's nothing on Earth, that could have hold Zod because he didn't get sucked back up into the Phantom Zone. So I knew the minute once Zod was there, that was left, I was like, he's going to have to kill General Zod.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people don't realize like the impact of Superman or Clark Kent at this time, like him finding out who he is, and then he finds out that there's others out there like him, but then now they're trying to destroy the world, or, they're trying to terraform it into Krypton and all that stuff. And just the choice that he had to make, like, when he snapped his neck, like he did that iconic, scream out, to say that, that it was just painful. But I don't think it weighed heavy enough on the audience because in the comics, we as fans or certain fans always go back to, Batman doesn't kill, Superman doesn't kill. And then there's fans that, yes, they did at one time, but it was because of a comic book
comic book code.
Yeah, a comic book code that they, started to write in there where you couldn't kill. So it was because of this code that was written into, the comic book world. That's why certain people did that. But anyways, besides that, like, I don't think that moment that fans, like, the weight of that moment didn't impact them enough. The fact that he legit had to kill one of his own, and he finally learned that lesson, besides his dad, his Earth dad, telling him, no, you shouldn't do this.
Life is precious.
Yeah, you should always hold back, because you see the moment where he was a little kid and he was getting bullied and he grabbed the fence, and when he got up, you saw the imprints of his fingers on that fence, because he wants to do something.
Yeah.
And I feel like within this Superman world, just because your parents tell you to do something, we all know, because your parents tell you to do something, sometimes you're not going to listen, but now he finds out, that he kills Zod, and now he knows what that feels like. And it's a thing that, in this universe, I feel like that's a great lesson for him, because for him going forward, he's not going to want to do that again.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And I feel like this is a great example of maybe where all of these movies, Marvel, DC, any adaptation from a character that's 50, 60, 100 years old soon, people will look at it under these rules. And a moment like that, people instantly like, that's not what Superman would do. That's my voice of an annoying nerd. and they miss what you're saying. They miss that point where it was like, yeah, this isn't Superman. This is him figuring out that hard lesson of what it is to kill someone,
Yeah, he finds out
and
the hard way.
realizing I don't want to do that again. And so, and it's such a shame because Superman not killing has been a rule for Superman, a quote unquote rule for a while, and for many of us, I mean, unless we've been around forever, we never quite understood why he would have that rule, and then Zack Snyder with the Man of Steel tried to give us that. He gave us the setup of why he would have that rule, but I think people missed it because they were so.
Oh yeah, it went over
They're
the top
so
of
like
their head.
it's not comic book accurate.
And when you
I absolutely agree with that.
when you immediately follow Man of Steel with Batman versus Superman, again, that through line, they carried over that message of Man of Steel of humanity, what it's like to retain your humanity.
If we're going to jump into BVS from Man of Steel, I just want to acknowledge that intro, the very beginning of BVS, when we got the alternate vision, the alternate angle of. Amazing. Absolutely.
Where he's like
amazing.
being ascended by the bats.
Well, no, that's a whole other conversation. No, but when Bruce Wayne was heading into Metropolis as Superman was fighting General Rod,
I like that it was amazing.
I got that.
No, see, and that's where people don't realize the
I
planning.
don't want to sidetrack too much, but yeah.
The planning in that, because to have that moment of just you find out now why Batman has beef with Superman, just coming out of Man of Steel, and you're like, oh, that was Wayne Tower, and all the other things. And
I don't want to go veer off too, because I had a point to make earlier, which was in Batman versus Superman, they carried over where Superman's still trying to figure out how to be a superhero, and I can't do it how my dad would have done it. I gotta change it up. Does that mean killing? I don't know. And then he meets Batman, and Batman's fucking murdering people left and right, directly, indirectly.
You want to get nuts? No, it's the wrong Batman.
Maybe he shot a guy, maybe he blew up a guy. I don't know. Maybe he stabbed a dude. But that's what it looked
The
like.
answer is E. All the above.
I still love. Sorry, like people were complaining about like Ben Affleck's Batman has guns on his shit, and then people like pulled up Michael Keaton like throwing dynamite in some guy's waist and throwing him down a cliff. It's like,
But
yeah.
all
No one
the
complained
animated
about that.
Batman, like
But
the Batmobile has hurt guns.
But in that particular story arc, right? A very superpowered person who's trying not to kill, trying to, pull his punches, so to speak, is watching this human, very rich human, with all the toys and stuff, just fucking, be the judge, jury, and executioner, and doing it without thinking about it twice.
Because he's the goddamn Batman.
Yeah. Why?
See,
Because I'm Batman.
Do you think at that moment Superman was tempted
Yeah.
with like I could do this?
Well, there, when
some problems.
when Lex finally lures him to the building top of LexCorp, and Superman was ready to once he learned he had his mom, Martha, he approached that with red eyes. He was ready to just zap Luthor right away. And it's fun to see that happen in the nightmare sequence of like, oh, this is, by the way, this is what it looks like if he were to completely lose his humanity.
I think-
So we're gonna paint the picture for you.
No, you're
You know
right.
what I mean?
Sorry,
We're gonna absolutely paint the picture. We're not gonna go like, well, here's kind of what it looked like. No. In a world where Superman is the supreme leader, he's gonna murder the shit out of people right in front of your fucking eyes till there's nothing left. You're like, God damn, okay. Now then you come back out of that and it's like, yeah, Batman, control that motherfucker. You know?
I think. Sorry, I kept trying to interrupt you in that talk, and I shouldn't have. But
I need a drop. He said like apologize like 4 times. I need a drop of that.
I know. No, but you're right. I think I was just so excited because I never thought of it until you mentioned it, that we did get a lot of like Superman on the edge.
Oh, you know what? Sorry. And the part of another thing I forgot to mention in that of BVS is Wonder Woman. Doug, you had mentioned that you wish they had never shown Wonder Woman in the trailers, right? And we'll get to that, right? We'll get to that. But a third person who's also trying to regain their humanity, trying to figure it out, is Wonder Woman. Because when she's introduced in that movie, she took a backseat to society.
Wait, she was done with humanity.
And she could absolutely help out, and she was about to turn her back yet again. But once she saw this bat dude and then some Boy Scout fighting this fucking monster that they couldn't handle, and she was like, oh,
Yeah, she pulled her sword and shield out of her carry-on,
and then jumped in and helped out with
Travels in
with the best musical sting, her Wonder Woman sting.
yes,
I got hyped up. I didn't know that was her sting at the time, but goddamn, what? And then that fucking iconic shot of the Trinity.
yes.
What an introduction
Wonder Woman
to the dawn of justice.
the Trinity shot, and then there was a scene when Doomsday knocked her back, and she tumbled, she caught herself,
Smirks.
and the smirk.
Yes.
It was like that moment. I just said it right before we started recording
hold on.
today.
I gotta grab my cum poncho again.
Yeah. I really don't know if we will ever get a better representation of Wonder Woman than that.
With that scene that Doug is talking about, where Diana, Wonder Woman, has that like smiley smirk on her face. A lot of people took that the wrong way. It wasn't to be cheeky in a sense,
Or cocky.
It's you have to think about who she is. She's a warrior. She's bred for that.
And she
she's
hasn't fought in a while.
She
Since 1984.
She's like
That mall fight.
she's like she's like
Woo! I went there.
Kratos, the god of war.
Yeah.
Like just her being in that element of battle. That was what that smirk was about. It wasn't for her to be cute or look sexy. Which
it doubled as.
It was.
I took it as
Was a poncho.
oh, you can handle this. I have a chance. In the animated series where I was about to say Batman, where Superman tells Darkseid, he's like, I feel like I live in a world of cardboard box, where I have to be careful to not break anything, break anyone. But you can take it, big boy. And he, that iconic punch, where there's a little slow mo build up, and then he just socked the shit out of Darkseid, and he flew through buildings. But it was that moment that was what I took that simple little smirk, from her, was like, oh, I got a chance to cut loose on this dude. It was. That's what I took it as. But
I feel like that's one of those maybe downsides to the Snyderverse. I mean, plus sides for us, downsides maybe to everyone else, is those little moments that to the nerd, to the comic book reader, to the fan, we understood it and we loved it. But
and it's all about interpretation, how you take it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're not saying like you have to be, a everything fan, you have to know the comics, you have to know the characters, but you just have to look at the moment, and just kind of understand or try to understand what is trying to be said, not necessarily like I said, that it was trying to be, cheeky or, sexy, but it was just one of those things where that's just what I understood it to be because I knew better. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. I just feel like everybody's interpretation is going to be different.
I also forget too that Diana, her kind of story arc through BVS was all about self-preservation. The reason why she bumped into Bruce Wayne was who was trying to hack Luthor's database was because there was a photo that she did not want out there. She did the best she could to keep herself completely hidden and completely secret. Which also kind of helps with plausible deniability of why she wasn't present in all of these other things, and then 1984 came out.
And I have to get into my second one is with BVS, and with that I just want to say it's a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation of however you want to take it. That Martha moment,
Tell me about the Martha moment, because we've had this conversation before.
This is what I
and I used to joke. I used to make the same joke that the rest of society and the rest of the audience joked with, and then you fucking laid this on me,
but
and it was most profound.
the reason why Ben Affleck is in the lake house or whatever, and not the Wayne Manor is because it's the lake house is representative of his mom. That's where his mom always dwelled, where she spent time. This is what Zack Snyder came out with after the fact. So it's one of those things, like, it had a connection to him rather than him building back the Wayne Manor. He abandoned that because he had fond memories, of Martha in the lake house. And also the reason why the Batman chose a spear as the Kryptonian weapon, it's a resemblance to the spear of destiny that pierced Christ.
Yeah, because there was a very holy scene, very angelic scene when Superman saving.
Because it was all that stuff.
Well, I think I've heard before, like the Christ comparisons to Superman with like the age and everything is very similar. My favorite thing about Superman history was he was super communist.
Oh,
absolute! Every episode was like him taking down a corporate fuck, and like, and then at some point in like the 50s with McCarthyism, there was this like no. I think it was going back to the comic book code. It was like no villain can be a corporate or like no villain can be a mayor or like a corporate person.
Well, isn't Luther a corporate person?
Yeah, but I think at that point they kind of had to change him up a little bit.
Oh yeah, like things.
Anyway,
but
Was he like a
going back
scientist or something?
Going back to something that you kind of touched on a little bit is the thing that I noticed with the Snyderverse, the whole everything Snyder had created for the 5 films, is that all of these little details, all of the things that weren't in the movie, you got to see from a deleted scenes, an extended thing, a new Blu-ray, a special showing, a special screening, or tweets, or secondhand. Kevin Smith said this, Zack Snyder kind of commented that, well, I was going to have this in there, but it wasn't exactly shown in the movies. And it's like, so it's frustrating, but it's like, and we got to see it in the Zack Snyder cut. I mean, that whole era of the internet really like banding together after a few years, hashtag release a Snyder cut, and then finally getting it.
Oh yeah, like I'm still shocked we got that. But
the one good thing out of COVID.
it
was a result of COVID, right? Warner Brothers wanted something to release.
Yeah, because nobody was doing anything, nobody could film anything, and Zack Snyder teased for so long that he's had this.
Because the majority of it was footage that he had. It was just that Batman.
Yeah. He would tease. He would say something along the lines of like, "Yeah, no, I got stuff. I got a scene of so and so doing this, and I got a scene of that." But I guess
I
you guys are just not gonna see it.
Heard rumors that the cast even said that like Zack Snyder filmed so much stuff that he could have had Justice League split into 2 movies.
Oh yeah,
by itself.
But
anyways, to add to the like how people view things in movie, like how you take things in, that whole
Martha scene
with Batman and Superman, and like I would say, like that moment, I understand both sides. Like I can see why people think that it's cheesy, and I can see the views of how people look at it, and I was like, oh, that was a moment right there. And it's one of those things like where you have Batman, like he's ready to, pretty much kill Superman right there on the spot. But I feel like it's one of those moments like where Lois comes in and, then you have Superman says, save Martha. And then it triggers, something in Batman, he's like, why did you say that name? Why did you say that name? And it's a lot of things that I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily get the way that this thing was supposed to impact you. Zack Snyder just didn't film Bruce Wayne's parents getting killed again for no reason. Like, we all know his parents got killed, but it was the thing that, like,
I will add that was probably one of the better filming of that scene.
oh
though.
yeah,
Amazing.
by far, and it's one of those things that stays with him, as in the Batman character. Like, it's one of those moments that will be with him for the rest of his days. That particular scene in the alleyway where his parents died. And it's a thing when you have him say Martha, like, it's supposed to trigger him because yes, that's his mom's name, but he's very curious of, like, why are you saying this name? And yes, I don't know if a lot of people knew at the time, but you know, both of their moms are named Martha. And it's like, I thought it was pretty clever that he put it in there that way. And you could look at things as, oh yes, it's a plot device or whatnot. But with all that said, that moment was supposed to handle two things. Batman being that kid in that alley who couldn't do anything to save his parents and about to kill this man, you know, who he doesn't really know, but he sees him as a threat, you know, because of things that happened in Man of Steel. Like, him saying save Martha and the explanation to that, like, it should have shocked Batman out of that killing rage, because it was like Batman was about to do the same thing that guy in the alleyway did to his parents, to this guy who also has a mom like him. And it's a thing that I don't think was well received, or people didn't view it that way. And with him finally backing off and like reasoning with him, I'm going to skip forward to that warehouse scene where you have this guy, like I said, who's going to have that moment with him live forever until the day he dies, about his parents in the alleyway who he couldn't do anything about. We know that's why he became Batman. But it's one of those things like where now you have this guy who's finally Batman and he could finally do something about it. So Superman saying save Martha, you know, AKA save his mom, Batman took it unto himself to say, I'm going to save your mom. You know, he took that responsibility because now he can finally go save Martha, you know, which is necessarily like his mom.
Yeah. And Batman's about to kill Superman. Brutally.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
And the last words out of Superman's mouth could have been, no, don't. Don't kill me. Instead, selflessly says,
Yeah.
don't kill Martha. Doesn't know that it's his mom.
Yes. Save Martha.
So
now you have...
It's like that one line. That one line did three things. That you said. It touched on Bruce Wayne, not Batman. It touched on Bruce Wayne's inner child. It showed Batman that Superman was human.
Yeah.
Inside. And
yeah, like he's just like him in a sense. Like he has, you know, people that he care about.
of course.
I think it was Lois that was like, that's his mom or whatever.
Yeah.
That's his mom. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, it showed that Superman was indeed selfless.
Oh yeah.
And it shook Batman. It brought him back to
like
his
it
own
shook him to his core. Like I felt like he needed that jolt.
Of course he did, but it what it did specifically is that it showed Superman his humanity, so that he, Batman's like, oh well, hell, I guess he isn't a mindless killing machine, this overpowered thing, and for Batman, it pulled him back in and from his rage, his rampage,
Or
and
maybe
his violence,
raised him up from the darkness as the bats did earlier in the movie when they raised him up into the light. In his little, the very beginning of the movie that we talked
like the
about.
Intro with
cued Josh Groban. You raise me up.
Yeah.
No.
No.
but it's like I would never like for me that particular moment when he went to that warehouse scene, like it was.
Which, I mean,
He was that 8-year-old kid again.
Hold up. We can't just reference that warehouse scene. That was probably 100% grade A prime beef. Batman kicking the shit out of hooligans
by far.
Like,
But no, see,
let's just that warehouse scene.
No,
It's like
no,
the warehouse scene.
The most
You don't
accurate
understand.
Batman ass
Yeah.
open.
no, you don't
the
understand.
warehouse scene. I think he gave someone a rock bottom. I'm just saying that.
I want to
But
give
this is the thing, though. This is the thing. Yes, all that, what you guys have said. But to me, the reason why that warehouse scene was so powerful, it's not just because like it was one of the best Batman fight scenes ever. Yes, it was. But it was that little 8-year-old boy in that alleyway finally got the chance to do what he wanted to do. And that's why it was that violent.
a point to his crusade.
That's why,
because he was doing it for so many years. It was a blood filled and almost pointless crusade because the bad guys kept popping up, and he kind of realized like, oh, it isn't about getting rid of the bad guys. It's like Batman relearning to be a better Batman and Superman learning to be
who he's become. We know to a degree, like he went beyond what he was supposed to do, but just him in that moment with about to kill, Superman and the realization of all that stuff. Yeah, the Martha line. But just him honestly going to that warehouse. I was watching that movie and I shit you not, I was like emotional damage because like I said, how I took it was that 8-year-old boy in that alley now is Batman and he finally can go do something about it, even though it's not his mom. And yes, it's just Martha, but that's why he told him, you go handle what's happening out there, with Doomsday and all that stuff. Well, before we even got Doomsday, that there was the structure that was lightning and all that stuff. He was like, you go handle this, I'll go save your mom.
Also, like people, so two-part. People complain about that Martha line, right? And there were so many things making fun of that line, that scene. I did too. And then you had the conversation with me, and you're like, no, here's why it's a fantastic scene. And I'm like, oh yeah, enlighten me. And you did, and you said exactly what you said today. And I was like, well, shitballs, I'm enlightened, right? Two, I love that now that you were talking about it, people complained that Batman was still overtly violent in the warehouse scene, right? But man, when the motivation's so juicy to save someone else's Martha,
yeah, man, and that's
you're
just
like,
what I
I'm
took it as,
gonna
like,
whip some ass.
so it's like that's legit
Open up a
why that
backhand
warehouse
whip
scene.
ass.
And I
Holy
100%,
backhand of whoop ass.
and I 100% feel that that's why Zack Snyder had that scene, regardless of how, like I said, how epic that warehouse scene was. Like it's more so the motivation behind it. Like you see that in the character when he moves, when he's fighting these guys, when he gets stabbed, like he is relentless, and it's the
Violent
purpose
for good.
and it's that sole purpose of I have to save Martha. I'm not gonna let this guy's mom die. Like just talking about it right now, I'm like,
I think
it just hit me so hard. Like so when I heard the outrage, it's just one of those things that just like I didn't understand it, but that was just my take from it. But
I think it's a great example of just how the internet or meme culture can kill something for people before they even see it. And I think that was probably one of the first ones where everyone just started making fun of that Martha scene, and people like I mean, when I watched that movie, the Martha scene didn't even stand out to me because I immediately picked up on that like connection to his mom and humanizing Superman. Like it wasn't a thing to me. And then I immediately started seeing all these people like, oh, he stopped fighting because his mom had the same name. It's like, well, it wasn't that, but everyone kind of said
it was more than that.
And then I saw it again with Justice League, with Joss Whedon's the theatrical release of Justice League, where before it even came out, people were talking about the CGI'd mustache of Superman. and I'm bringing it up because I remember being in the theater. The scene came up, and I didn't really even notice it. Like it wasn't like it didn't stand out. But I heard so many people. I literally heard people in the audience going, oh, "There it is," and I was just like, "Fuck off!" Like had you not seen the memes, had you not seen the internet stories, you probably wouldn't even noticed it. And I think that's the thing with the Martha thing, where had people not heard the stupid commentary from the ignorant people that don't, I guess I'm being too aggressive here, but from maybe the people that didn't think about it too much, right? They were just anxious for that joke because jokes get you likes and comments and
like I just felt like it just went over the top of most people's head. But like I said, people are going to interpret it the way they interpret it. Like that was just my takeaway from it.
No, they are. But what I'm saying is, like, I think going back to maybe what we were saying earlier, where it's like, review it for how you are seeing it. Maybe like, don't let the internet's jokes
or Rotten Tomatoes
or Rotten Tomatoes. Don't let those things influence how you approach a scene. Like take a second to step back and look at the overall picture, because a meme or Reddit commentary or something like that could be missing something. Most likely is missing something. And you know, going back to, I mean, a motif of our show, God damn it, I said motif a couple times within a couple of minutes. But the conversation, right? Have the conversations with people. Like instead of making fun of the Martha scene, maybe take a moment to ask, like, why would Batman suddenly stop this vicious, deadly assault on Superman because he said Martha? And I think, you know, a lot of people, if they stopped and thought about it, they might come to the very same conclusion.
I heard one guy's take on it after the fact. Like I went online to just see what people took away from that scene, and this one guy, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was getting emotional when he was saying it, because when he saw the Martha scene, he took it as, he was like, Martha to him represented like everybody's mom. Like he was like, it necessarily just wasn't Superman's mom. Like he took it as like, it was our mom, like, you know, like everybody's mom. And it was just
the
like,
non-billionaire mom.
Yes. But I mean, it was just like his expression from it was like, it was, boys are going to be known as mama's boys and all that stuff. But it was one of those things like where he just said, he took it as like the name Martha wasn't necessarily just Martha to him. Like he took it as like save mom.
Oh, I know full well if I was fighting someone, I mean, it's been a long time since I fought someone, maybe high school. But if I was fighting someone, like punching them, you know, holding them down, like really beating their ass, and then all of a sudden they said, "Yeah, like, hey, save Diane," I would stop. Right? That's my mom's name. I would stop. Right? And so it's like everyone's like, "Oh, he stopped." It's like, wouldn't you stop if someone suddenly said your mom's fucking name?
That's why that like, scene played out pretty well, because it wasn't like, he was, you know, Batman was shocked. What? What'd you say? Why'd you say that name?
Like
why'd you say that name?
That's exactly what I would yell. Like if
he
I'm
legit
fighting
was taken
someone,
back. Like you see him take those heavy steps back. Like like he
was disgusted with himself. He saw what he had become. He saw
that's what I'm saying.
Humanity reflected in this alien. You know, the humanity that he should have in himself.
Because like exactly like I said, like I felt like he was that dude that when he realized, he was like, damn, I'm about to do the same thing to this guy that was done to me, you know, or do the same thing to a family member. Like if I would have killed this guy, he has a mom.
Yeah.
And she would feel the same pain I felt because of myself blindly taking, you know, my rage out on this guy.
But how dare a superhero movie make us think?
Also, in a little bit of a what if, and we'll wrap it up right now, is what do you think would have happened if Batman did kill Superman? Other than Doomsday just fucking, you know, demolishing the world.
I mean, I mean, that's where maybe movies will never venture into that world, but like the Elseworld idea of comic books, like I would absolutely love to read that trade paperback of a series of like where Batman killed Superman. Like what would that world be like? I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, is a whole nother hypothetical, but that's the joys of comic books that will never bleed into maybe the mainstream media.
Rudy? Alrighty, guys, that's as good as place as any to wrap part 1 of the Snyderverse deep dive. We're going to come back with Wonder Woman in a part 2, so make sure to check us out. Go and nerd, do some stuff. Check us out on the social medias at The Hype Attack on Instagram and TikTok. I just learned that. Doug?
Yeah. Hopefully you spend this next week maybe thinking about Snyderverse and all those old DC Universe movies as we head into the next era of DC movies. Check us out next week. In the meantime, keep the conversation going with your friends and your family and us. And yeah, goodbye, everybody.
Catch us next time. Same hype channel.
Spiral.
To the compods.